Hi, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about secularism in India. This is because in the last few years there has been a lot of debate in the area of secularism, about India not being as secular as it used to be before, about the current government not being as secular. And on my recent trip to Thailand, I went to Thailand for the first time in March this year, and I realized that what we consider as secular in India, largely in the mainstream, is quite different from what secularism actually means. So it's one thing to have equal rights for minorities. Like all individuals should very much have equal laws, equal rights. All individuals should live a very dignified life. That's a given. There is no doubt about that. But secularism also includes being inclusive of the land that you are living in, of the culture of the land as well. So, for instance, I saw in Thailand there were many installations, many sculptures, elements which symbolized Hindu culture. And I say culture and not religion because religion as a word has grown to mean non inclusive and organized. Uh, but that is limited to only Abrahamic religions. Uh, Other religions, particularly Eastern religions such as Hinduism, they were not religions to begin with. They used to be like a way of life, and even so, they are not non inclusive. They are inclusive in the sense that Hindus can worship other gods. Others are welcome to worship Hindu deities. Also, like it is not prescriptive in nature. Hinduism does not have any like rules or commandments, all that sort of thing. So it is not organized. There are texts which provide some guidelines to live a good life, but that too is not there's nothing like mandatory to follow as such. So the word religion is, when used in the context of Hinduism, it means something different than what it means in case of other Abrahamic religions. So we just call it culture, Hindu culture. So there were these installations, like open display of elements of Hindu culture, and it was embraced by the people of the country, like the citizens of the country, irrespective of which religion they belong to. It was just like widely accepted, open. So for example, if like at the airport itself there were these four guardian like structures, like I think it would be similar to what we would call as dwarpalakas in Hinduism. It was similar to that. There were four of these, and they were named Indrajit and Surya Ford and Chakravarti, and they were named like, and some description was given below each about what they signify. And it was very nice to see that, and it just struck me that if India were to do something similar, like have these Hindu deity installations outside airports with descriptions and everything, would it be accepted? I mean, would uh, I can easily imagine an uproar on Twitter taking place on uh, it not being a secular country because of something like this, something as or not being a secular government because of something like this. So for like this government did do a lot for temples and things like that, and they were questioned by a lot of folks on social media about whether this is necessary when there is so much poverty in the country, whether this is necessary to, build, spend so much money on. And even even though Ram Mandir in Ayodhya was funded by individuals and not by the government, it was still given a bad name. And the secularism is generally, what I mean to say is that, and in Thailand you also have these names based on Hindu deities, and I mean it was very very surprising to see that, like Hanuman park, Hanuman World, it was an adventure park, and there were other that's another thing, that their roads are named on Lord Ram's name, but then that is also because I guess their king is named after Ram. So, but then in general, there was like everywhere you go, you could see elements of Hindu culture somewhere or the other. And um, in general, what I mean to say is that when you fight for secularism as an individual, minorities doing it is one thing, but yeah, they too, when everyone, like including the left of our country, as we say, or even things like not empathizing with the sentiments of Hindus, but speaking up for other minorities, like for instance, that Ayodhya case was a major one. Yes, the Babri Masjid incident was violent. Yes, the people responsible for it are also, were also punished. Yes, all that is true. And I'm just taking this as an example. And we still waited for so long to have a proper evidence so that we could lawfully rebuild the temple, and that meant a lot to a lot of Hindu folks, especially from that area, who could relate with the history, who could relate on a deeper level with the deity as well. So, but then there was a lot of, like, there was very less empathy for this, not even a percentage of openness that there could be some justice. I mean, and it was a very lawful move. I think if in any other country, like, they would have just rebuilt it without even waiting for evidence. I'm sure that could have happened in a lot of countries. And here, after so many years of that Babri incident taking place, the country waited, the government waited, the people waited for an official verdict, for evidence, so that it could be rebuilt. I mean, this is if this isn't secularism, what is? What are people cribbing about? So, I think we should really question ourselves when we are raising these questions about whether we have our own biases within ourselves. So, the bottom line of what I mean to say is that when we raise questions about secularism in our country, we need to also ask ourselves on how secular we are internally, because the kind of accusations we are coming up with are a reflection of the lack of secularism in our own selves, in a way. Because if we are questioning things like, why is a Hindu thing getting more importance, when it is the basic fact that it is the culture of the land, but you still have a problem with it, then how secular are you really? It's one thing to point fingers at the country or the government, but how secular are you really? How much are you embracing or respecting the culture, the religion of the land? I mean, if you do not have respect for it, then you yourself are, lack that secularism, and therefore you lose the right. I'm not saying you're a free individual, you're allowed to have your own opinions, views, likes, dislikes, but then you lose the right to say anything about this, about the secularism. You yourself have to be inclusive first about uh, the culture of your land, the different uh, aspects of that culture, and embracing it is like, is the ultimate thing, but at least have that inclusivity, you know and respect. Loving it, embracing it is like another aspect, but I think this is missing. This is largely missing these days, and probably the previous government did not do as much for this, for the culture. I'm not very sure, because I am not very very politically aware, but that doesn't mean that, that government was more secular. Doesn't mean that. So yeah, so I think this is what I wanted to say, that when we are questioning the secularism in the country, we need to also ask ourselves, how secular are we, how inclusive are we, how much are we rooted in our land, in the culture of the land, how much are we respecting it, how much are we imbibing it. So that's what I want to say, that when we raise questions about secularism, let us ask ourselves, how secular are we, how much are we being inclusive of the culture, respecting it, how much are we rooted in our own land. we there's a It's a fundamental issue if we are not rooted in our own land, and and we raise questions. We need to own our land first, then we have the right to ask questions from the government or whoever the authorities are. So if we are not rooted in our land, if we are outsiders in our own mind about the to the country or to the culture, if in our own mind, if we consider ourselves as outsiders, then we do not have this right to question our own government or to point fingers at it. So we are living in a conflict sort of situation in that case. So yeah, this is my clear view about it on Clear Conversations, like sort of clear view. There are a lot of other aspects to secularism, but this is a difference that I realized after that trip. And this is not to blame anyone, but I think this may help to introspect, at least the wise people or the self-aware people rather. They would ask themselves this and learn from it for themselves. Yeah, that's it.